Hello, 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 hello. How are we all doing today? We're doing well? Today we will be. Let me just turn down my music a bit. We'll go to my study music. Alright, today we will be doing a section on genes and inheritance. I will be skipping over certain parts, but aside from that, it will hopefully you guys will enjoy it. I am just going to be changing some stuff to be able to see things more easily, and then we will begin. There we go. I'm changing things on my vertical side. Hi, LJG. Hi. Sorry if I don't say your name, I probably just don't know how to pronounce it. Zol says, "What kind of quantum tomfoolery am I looking at?" None of that. Don't worry. Even I'm not cruel enough to do physics on stream. Even I have my limits. All right. I hope we all enjoyed this today. Gunzi says, "I'm collecting all the chromosomes. Enjoy, enjoy, enjoy." Hi, Mariam. All right, it's time to start. So, DNA, genes, and chromosomes. Just gonna move my chat a little bit. Chromosomes, very cool, very cool. Cosmo says, "I love quantum. It is my deepest love. There is no such thing as quantum tomfoolery." Hi, Cosmo, welcome. All right, let's go. Chromosomes are found in the nucleus. Human body cells are diploid. This means they have two copies of each chromosome, arranged in pairs. A human cell nucleus contains 46 chromosomes in total. So, the diploid number for a human is 46. Genes are chemical instructions. DNA is a long list of instructions on how to put an organism together and make it work. All of an organism's DNA makes up the organism's genome. Each separate gene in a DNA molecule is a chemical instruction that codes for, say, how to make a particular protein. Proteins are important because they control most processes in the body. They also determine inherited characteristics, for example, eye color and blood type. By controlling the production of proteins, genes can also control our inherited characteristics. There can be different versions of the same gene, which give different versions of a characteristic, like blue or brown eyes. The different version of the same gene are called alleles. Alleles. Who knows how to pronounce it? Oh, Ahmed says the OGC Roman reigns with. I'm very sorry, I don't know what that means. Give me 1 minute, I'm trying to fix something. I want to make this to be bigger. I'll make myself smaller as well. Hi, Red Boy. How you doing? You doing well today? Today's lesson is on biology. Are we excited? We better be excited, or else. I'm just changing my zoom in real quick. All right, now, DNA is a double helix. A DNA molecule has two strands coiled together in the shape of a double helix, which is a fancy way of saying two spirals. The two strands are held together by chemicals called bases. There are four different bases shown in the diagram as different colors: adenine, A, cytosine, C, guanine, G, and thymine, T. Adenine always pairs with thymine, and cytosine always pairs with guanine. Oh, Gunsey says you pronounce that alleles. Ah, thank you so much. Alleles. Thank you. And LGG says biology is, I know, right? Biology is my favorite subject as well. I adore biology, but I despise physics. I just find it interesting. And when things are interesting, they're exciting. That's my view on things, at least. Now, the bases are always paired, and they always pair up in the same way. It's always A and T, and then C and G. This is called complementary base pairing. Now, let's look at this diagram up here again. So, firstly, we have a cell. This is our cell. And inside the cell, we have a nucleus. And the nucleus contains all the genetic material in the form of chromosomes. So, if we zoom into the nucleus, this little bit here, and then this is the big zoomed in area, we see chromosomes. And each one of these is a big version of this. This is the zoomed in version. There's lots of them. And if we take a small part of this again and look into that, chromosomes are long lengths of DNA coiled up. And then this is what's all coiled up inside of this, which is inside this, which is inside this, which is inside this. And these cells, there will be millions and millions and billions of them inside of you. In one single, okay, let's put this into perspective. If you look at one single strand of your hair, the horizontal width of that probably contains about 1 million cells. So these cells are very, very, very small. And inside the cells, we've got smaller, smaller, and smaller and smaller. LGG says, oh, I know that every girl has the two chromosomes inside. No, well, it's different. If it depends on if you XX chromosomes or XY chromosomes. XX chromosomes means girl. XY chromosomes means that you are a boy. We'll go for that in a second, don't worry. Gunsey says, I like selective breeding. Humans have been altering stuff for decades, crops especially. Yes, yes. We have the section on plant reproduction coming up in a bit. I'm gonna make my PNG a bit smaller. Vertical. There we go. Yes, yes, Gunsey know what's happening. Alright, let's continue. Alright. This might get a bit complicated. Protein synthesis. So, here's how life works. DNA molecules contain a genetic code that determines which proteins are built. The proteins determine how all the cells in the body function. Simple, eh? Now, proteins are made by reading the code in DNA. DNA controls the production of proteins. In a cell, proteins are made up of chains of molecules called amino acids. And if we remember previously in one of our other streams, if you want to, the enzyme for putting proteins back into amino acids, protease. And this happens in the stomach, and the stomach has a pH of 2, so it is very acidic to create the optimum conditions for this protease enzyme to work. Now, back to this page. Also, hi, Florrie. How you doing? Hope you enjoy the reading. Now, each protein has its own particular number and order of amino acids. The amino acid chains fold up to give each protein a different specific shape, which means each protein can have a different function. This is why enzymes have active sites with a specific shape and can only catalyze a specific reaction. Remember, a section of DNA that codes for a particular protein is called a gene. It's the order of the bases in a gene that decides the order of amino acids in a protein. And if we remember our bases, we have A and T, and then C and G. Later on, there'll also be a U, but we'll go on to that later. Not now. Anyways, let's continue. Each amino acid is coded for by a sequence of 3 bases in the gene. This is called a codon. DNA contains 4 different bases, and each codon in a gene contains 3 bases. So, there are 4 times 4 times 4, 64 possible codons. And here are all the possible ones. If we count all of these, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And now, if we remember, 8 times 8 is 64. A little silly way to remember this is I ate an 8 until I was sick on the floor. And that sounds a lot like 8 times 8 is 64. Little fun way to remember things. Also, LGs, my streams are normally like 14 plus for when I'm playing games, since I may curse a lot, so I do not recommend joining us for when I'm playing games, but you're always welcome in educational streams. Those are for all ages, but for some books I read, they may have certain content that um shouldn't really be read by younger audiences, but I always put if I'm redoing something like that, I will always put an age tag for the age rating of my stream. Anyways, bit of lag, sorry. Anyways, let's continue. Since there are only 20 amino acids, some codons code for the same amino acid. The amino acids are joined together to make proteins, following the order of the bases in the gene. Codons are read one after the other. They don't overlap. Now, let's look at some examples using the sequence of bases. Each base contains 3 codons. So in this codon here, we have T, C, G. And then we have T, G, G. Each 3 of these is 1 codon. All right, now, the cell reads the genetic code. Let's say these bases turn into this thing, and these bases turn into this thing. And then that puts the order of them in the protein, and depending on what type of amino acids are in this chain, that changes the function of the protein. Now, each gene contains a different sequence of bases, which is what allows it to code for a particular protein. DNA also contains non-reading regions. Many regions of DNA are non-coding. That means they don't code for any amino acids. Despite this, some of these regions are still involved in protein synthesis. Give me 1 second. I think I'm gonna just lower my Spotify volume ever so slightly, just to make it so everything can still be heard. All right, this seems good. Okay. Now, let's continue. I don't need to mean to flip that page. and it's brought me to the first page. Great. Just what I wanted. More on protein synthesis. So, this is how you actually use the DNA code to make the protein that you need. But it says you sound like Alexa. That's because I'm doing my relaxing voice. I can change my voice a lot depending on the content I'm doing. Alright, proteins are made in two stages. Firstly, transcription. Proteins are made in the cell cytoplasm by subcellular structures called ribosomes. DNA is found in the cell nucleus and can't move out of it because it's really big. The cell needs to get the information from the DNA in the ribosome to the ribosome in the cytoplasm. This is done using a molecule called messenger RNA, mRNA. Also, budget. Despite people's age here, we want to be respectful to everyone. This is a place where everyone is welcome. So don't make it seem like anyone is not welcome, okay? Now let's continue. Like DNA, mRNA is made up of a sequence of bases, but it's shorter and only a single strand. It also uses uracil, U, instead of thymine as base. RNA polymerase is the enzyme involved in joining together the base sequence to make mRNA. This stage of protein synthesis is called transcription. Here's how it works. So, firstly, we have RNA polymerase. It binds to a region of non-coding DNA in the front of a gene. Number two, the two DNA strands unzip and the RNA polymerase moves along one of the strands of the DNA. Now let's look at this real quick. This is the cell, and we have the gene. This is the RNA polymerase here, this big pink thing. And then this is our gene going through it. Alright, let's continue. Ardeth, if you think my voice is goofy, you have no obligation to stay here. I'm trying to, since this is ASMR, I'm trying to make my voice relaxing. So I'm trying to keep it monotone and such. Anyways, let's continue. It uses the coding DNA in the gene as a template to make the mRNA. Base pairing between the DNA and RNA ensures that the mRNA is complementary to the gene. Once made, the mRNA molecule moves out of the nucleus and joins with a ribosome in the cytoplasm. And secondly, we have translation. Once the once the mRNA is bound to a ribosome, the protein can be assembled. This stage is called translation. Amino acids are brought to the ribosome by another RNA molecule called transfer RNA, tRNA. This is not the same as messenger RNA, mRNA. The order in which the amino acids are brought to the ribosome matches the order of the codons in the mRNA. Part of the tRNA structure is called the anticodon. It is complementary to the codon for the amino acid. The pairing of the codon and the anticodon makes sure that the amino acids are brought to the ribosome in the correct order. The amino acids are joined together by the ribosome, and this makes a protein. Alright, I'm going to explain this what it means by complementary. Complementary. Alright, so let's look here. We have a codon here, TCG. So the anticodon would be AGC because T and A go together, C and G go together, and G and C go together. But then they might flip again to change things. All right, let's go on to asexual reproduction and mitosis. There are two ways an organism can reproduce, asexually and sexually, and two ways a cell can divide, mitosis and meiosis. This page, as you might have guessed, is about asexual reproduction and mitosis. An ordinary cell can make a new cell simply by dividing in two. Both new cells are genetically identical to the original cell. This means they both contain exactly the same genetic information. This type of cell division is known as mitosis. Known as mitosis. Yeah, I agree, LTGs. It's also just really interesting to know about these things. Now, some organisms produce offspring using mitosis. This is known as asexual reproduction. Organisms which reproduce asexually include bacteria and some plants. Asexual reproduction involves only one parent. The offspring have identical genes to the parent, so there's no variation between parent and offspring. This is important for later because we will be going on genetic variation and evolution, and how variation in genes can lead to changes, which means some things are less susceptible to diseases and such things like that. So each one has its benefits. Also, hi Transformer, how you doing? I hope you enjoy the stream. Now, mitosis. Mitosis is when a cell reproduces itself by splitting to form two cells with identical sets of chromosomes. So, when a diploid cell divides by mitosis, you get two cells that are both diploid. Here's how mitosis works. So, let's look at this little diagram. Outside here, the line at the very edge, this is the cell membrane. And inside, we have the cytoplasm, where most of the chemical reactions take place. And then we have the nucleus, which is this. And then the DNA is inside the nucleus, in the form of chromosomes. Now, in a cell that's not dividing, the DNA is all spread out in long strings. If the cell gets a signal to divide, it needs to duplicate its DNA, so there's only one copy for each new cell. The DNA forms X-shaped chromosomes. Each arm of the chromosome is an exact duplicate of the other. Now, let's look at this. This green one and these red ones are completely the same. Despite the color differences to just show which ones are moving to the left and which ones are moving to the right. And first, you always have to remember that the cell must have enough nutrients to be able to, to divide, it needs to have enough nutrients and power and such. So, yeah. And then let's do the next stage. We can see, instead of the DNA all being tangly strings, it's going into these X-shaped chromosomes. And now, the chromosomes are at the middle. They line up at the center of the cell, and cell fibers pull them apart. The two arms of each chromosome go to opposite ends of the cell. Alright, let's try and envision this. So, you have these, and all the green sides will go to the left, and all the red sides will go to the right. And then, next stage, membranes form around each set of the chromosomes. These become the nuclei for the new two cells. So, after all the green ones have been pulled to the left and all the red ones have been pulled to the right, they each get their own little membrane around the nucleus. This is not the same as the overall cell membrane because the nucleus has its own little cell membrane. This is because it is the organism is eukaryotic, which means multicellular. If it was single-celled, like bacteria, Um, it would like just be this without you know, these there wouldn't be loads and loads of the different things making up structures. Where was I? And lastly, the cytoplasm divides. You now have two new cells containing exactly the same DNA. They're genetically identical. Remember why they're identical? Because we had our chromosomes which are matching here. Now, mitosis also makes new cells for growth and repair. Mitosis isn't just used during asexual reproduction, it's how all plants and animals grow and repair damaged tissue. Cloning also involves mitosis. Also, hi, I'm Mom. How you doing? Also, I hope this isn't considered crap. I like to think of it as quite interesting. I'm glad it is curing depression, though. I think I will skip over that part, but we will go to this part. We will go to meiosis. So, hi, Ethan. How you doing? All right. Gametes are produced by meiosis. Meiosis is another type of cell division. It's different to mitosis because it doesn't produce identical cells. In humans, meiosis only happens in the reproductive organs. Meiosis produces four haploid cells whose chromosomes are not identical. Now, this is a bit more complicated. Let's read through this very slowly. Before the cell starts to divide, it duplicates its DNA so there's enough for each new cell. One arm of each X-shaped chromosome is an exact copy of the other arm. So this part here, it's doubling exactly the same as this, and they're identical. But the next stage is where things get complicated. Now, in the first division in meiosis, there are two divisions this time. The chromosomes line up in pairs in the center of the cell. One chromosome in each pair came from the organism's mother, and one came from its father. The pairs are then pulled apart, so each new cell only has one copy of each chromosome. Some of the father's chromosomes, shown in red, and some of the mother's chromosomes, shown in blue, go into each new cell. So, we look at these. It's not all like, they're not from the same creature. The one are from the mom, one from the dad. And then they line up in the center. They split to the different sides again, the copies. And then they split again. And this kind of creates randomized things. So you can see all of these turn into all of these here. And in this one, there are like three mother cells and one father cell. And in this one, there are two father cells and one red cell. Also, hi, Anzeta. I'm Mama Jeff. Transformer says, I'm actively regaining my brain cells. I'm glad to hear. Brain cells are always good to regain. All right. Each new cell will have a mixture of the mother's and father's chromosomes. Mixing up the genes like this is really important. It creates genetic variation in the offspring. In the second division, the chromosomes line up again in the center of the cell. It's a lot like mitosis. The arms of the chromosomes are pulled apart. You get four haploid gametes. Each gamete only has a single set of chromosomes. The gametes are all genetically different. Now, let's do reproduction in plants. And this is sexual reproduction in plants that we'll go over, and then we'll go on to asexual. The flower contains both male and female gametes. Flowering plants have both male and female structures, or just you can just say parts. They're contained in the flower. You'll have seen these around in real life, hopefully. Now, let's go over the male part of the plant first. The stamen is the male reproductive part. And the male reproductive parts, you see these things that come out to the side? And they have the little pollen things on the top? These little things that stick out. Those are the male parts, and it's called the stamen. Now, the stamen consists of the anther and the filament. The anther contains pollen grains. These produce male gametes. So, you see these yellow things at the top here? These are the anther, which make the pollen. Also, hi Melissa, how you doing? Adult. Thank you for the water consume. Let me do that now. I did eat. I did eat. I had some yum yums, cucumber, yogurt, and pizza. It was delicious. I hope you enjoyed the biology today, Melissa. Now, the second part of this. The filament is the stalk that is the stalk that supports the anther. So the filament just holds the anthers up. It gives them strength, or else they just fall down. Now, let's go over the female part of the flower. Oh, Melissa says, I'm cooking right now. Oh, enjoy cooking. What are you cooking? What are you making? What are you making? What are you making? What are you making? LGG says, oh, I think I need to eat. I'll look into this later. See you. See you. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope this helped you learn new things. Well, says, rice and beef with the veggies. Yum. Sounds delicious. Enjoy your cooking and eating. Now, the carpel is the female reproductive part. The carpel consists of the ovary, style, and stigma. The stigma is the end bit that the pollen grains attach to. The style is the rod-like section that supports the stigma, very much like the filament. It just keeps it up and supports it. The ovary contains the female gametes, eggs inside ovules. Also, thank you for looking, Was. Okay, let's look at this again. So, the stigma. This little bit at the top. This is where all the male gametes, the pollen, go onto. And then they go down the style, the part that supports it, and down to the ovary, where the eggs are, where the eggs are, and yeah, reproduction. Now, pollination is the transfer of pollen from anther to a stigma, so that the male gametes can fertilize the female gametes in sexual reproduction. Cross-pollination is a type of sexual reproduction where pollen is transferred from the anther of one plant to the stigma of another. Plants that cross-pollinate rely on things like insects and wind to help them pollinate. So, hi, anime lover. You know, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? You need to hide. You're not supposed to be here. Anyways, some plants are adapted for insect pollination. Here's how plants how can be adapted. Blah, blah. They have brightly colored petals to attract insects. They also have scented flowers and nectaries, glands that secrete nectar to attract them. They make big, sticky polygrains. The grains stick to insect as they go from plant to plant. The stigma is also sticky so that any pollen picked up by insects on other plants will stick to the stigma. So, all the pollen grains from the anthers, they stick to the bee, and then when the bee flies to the middle of the plant, the pollen grains fall off, and this is what fertilizes the plant. Now, let's go on to plants that are adapted for wind. Features of plants adapted for pollination by wind include small, dull petals on the flower, because they have no need to attract insects. No nectaries or strong scents for the same reason, but they have a lot of pollen grains. And they're small and light, so they can be easily carried by the wind. Long filaments that hang the anthers outside the flower, so that a lot of pollen gets blown away by the wind. a large and feathery stigma to catch pollen as it's carried past by the wind. The stigma often hangs outside the flower too. Now let's look back to this diagram. For wind ones, these filaments will be super long, along with the pollen grain, the anthers at the very end, so the wind can catch them more easily. Along with the stigma is often also outside, so it can catch pollen grains from other things. Now let's go over fertilization and germination in plants. Once the pollen has found its way to a lovely stigma, it's time for fertilization to take place. Fertilization is the fusion of gametes. A pollen grain lands on the stigma of a flower, usually with help from insects or the wind. A pollen tube grows out of the pollen grain and down through the style to the ovary and into the ovule. A nucleus from the male gamete moves down the tube to join with a female gamete in the ovule. Fertilization is when the two nuclei fuse together to make a zygote. This divides by mitosis to form an embryo. Each fertilized female gamete forms a seed. The ovary develops into a fruit around the seed. Now, let's look at this. Okay, pollen grain lands on the top of the stigma. It goes down the style, and then it meets up in the ovary to an ovule. Now, germination is when seeds start to grow. A seed will often lie dormant until the conditions around it are right for germination. The conditions are water to activate the enzymes that break down the food reserves in the seed. And secondly, respiration. They need oxygen, which transfers the energy from food to growth. And lastly, a suitable temperature for the enzymes inside the seed to work. Remember our auxin enzymes? We have these shoots and roots. And now, this depends on what type of seed it is. Alright, let's look at this. Well, so hi, the one and silly. How you doing? I hope you enjoy the stream today. Alright, so here's our seed. The seed takes in water from the soil and starts to grow using its store of energy. And then, the first root starts to grow down into the soil. This allows the plant to get more and more water. And then, the shoot grows up while the root goes down. And then, finally, extra roots grow and the first green leaves appear. Zapika says, I feel so bad for plants they can't get. Bro. I'm not quite sure what to say to that. I don't think you or people should be doing that either. But hey, each to their own. Now, germinating seeds get energy from food stalls. A developed seed contains an embryo and a store of food reserves wrapped in a hard seed coat. When a seed starts to germinate, it gets glucose for respiration from its own food stall. This transfers the energy it needs to grow. Hi, Hogarth. How you doing? I hope you enjoy the stream today. We're doing about plants at the moment. I'm going to skip over the section about human reproduction because I think that might get flagged for inappropriate content. So I apologize for that. Now, once the plant has grown enough to produce green leaves, it can get its own food for energy from photosynthesis. Remember the equation for photosynthesis? Do we? I think we did it yesterday or the day before yesterday. Gluco, we have, yeah. The things involved are carbon dioxide, water, light energy, glucose, and oxygen. So, to photosynthesize, the plant needs carbon dioxide. Oh no, what does it do? Yeah, it needs carbon dioxide and water. I think so. I don't remember the equation if I'm being honest. I always forget these types of things. We can go back to it. See, let's go back to page 20 to remember the equation. I remember that all six aside from glucose, which is C6H12, and then O6, I think. Let's go to page 20 just to remember our photosynthesis equation. Yep, it was carbon dioxide and water. Carbon dioxide and water with light and chloroplast goes into glucose and oxygen. And then we switch this around for respiration. Respiration is oxygen and glucose to water and carbon dioxide. And I love it, to be honest. When I'm reading educational things, it's fine to stay. But if I'm reading a book that has inappropriate content, I will be adding a age rating to the stream. So, and if I'm playing a game, I will also add an age rating because I do curse and I just don't want to traumatize anyone because I know the age range of people watching can vary a lot. 58. Hold on, give me 1 second. I am just gonna hide Chrome real quick. To switch pages, I want to skip past certain pages. Oh god, so let me go grab my textbook now. Yes, love it. Alright, let me turn my Chrome back on. I was just skipping certain pages. Alright. Genetic diagrams. This part is all about how characteristics, like eye colors, are inherited. Before you start, you might want to refresh your memory of genes, chromosomes, and DNA. Do you remember them? How do I pronounce it? I forgot. Someone said it earlier. um, I know Gansu said it. Let me find the message. Alleles. There we go. Alleles. Alleles are different versions of the same gene. What genes you inherit control what characteristics you develop. Some characteristics are controlled by a single gene. However, most characteristics are controlled by several genes interacting. Most of the time, you have two copies of each gene. For example, two alleles, one from each parent. If the oh gosh, I'm actually tweaking. I forgot how to say it already. I'm honestly just gonna copy paste it. Oh, lag. I'm honestly gonna copy paste it and put it in chat just so I remember it. Alleles. Yes. Well, thank you for the water consume. Let me do that real quick. And I'll stretch as well. Stretch complete. So how you doing, Refuse? You doing well today? If alleles are different, you have instructions for two different versions of a characteristic. For example, blue eyes or brown eyes, but you only show one version of the two. The version of the characteristic that appears is caused by the dominant alleles. The other allele is said to be recessive. The characteristic caused by the recessive allele only appears if both alleles are recessive. Your genotype is the alleles that you have. Your phenotype is the characteristics the alleles produce. In genetic diagrams, letters are used to represent genes. Dominant alleles are always shown with a capital letter, and recessive alleles with a small letter. Refuse says, I'm doing well, doing my free solo ascent on Chiron right now. Oh, had lots of fun. I hope you reach the top. One day, Refuse, you're gonna get Peak, and we're gonna play Peak together. Trust, 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 trust. Anyways, let's continue. If you're homozygous for a trait, you have two alleles the same for that particular gene. For example, capital C, or lowercase c. If you're heterozygous for a trait, you have two different alleles for the particular gene. For example, capital C, lowercase c. And the capital one, the dominant one, will always be the one that shows. Some characteristics are caused by codominant alleles. Neither allele is recessive, so you show characteristics from both alleles. For example, not blood group A or B, but blood group AB. Genetic diagrams show the possible alleles in the offspring. The inheritance of a single characteristic is called monohybrid inheritance. You can use a monohybrid cross to show how recessive and dominant traits for a single characteristic are inherited. Imagine you're crossbreeding hamsters, and some have superpowers. And suppose you know that behavior is due to one gene. Let's say the allele, oh gosh, the allele, um, which causes the superpower is recessive. So we use a lowercase b. A normal hamster behavior is due to a dominant one. Let's call it capital B. A superpowered hamster must have the genotype lowercase b, lowercase b. It must be homozygous for this trait. However, a normal hamster could have two possible genotypes, capital B, homozygous, or capital B, lowercase b, heterozygous. Because the dominant allele, capital B, overrules the recessive one, lowercase b. And this is what happens if you breed from two heterozygous hamsters. There's a 75% chance of having a normal hamster and a 25% chance of a superpower one. You'd expect a 3-to-1 ratio of normal to superpowered hamsters. This ratio is called phenotypic ratio because it's the ratio of different phenotypes. So, you can see all the links here. These two, capital B, go to this one, lowercase b, lowercase uppercase, go to this one, this one, go to this one, but B and B here, they go to this one. Do more genetic diagrams? No. Alright, this seems good. Family pedigrees. Knowing how inheritance works helps you interpret a family pedigree, a family tree of genetic disorders. Here's a worked example using cystic fibrosis, a genetic disorder of the cell membranes. The allele which causes cystic fibrosis is a recessive allele, lowercase f, carried by about 1 person in 30. Because it's recessive, people with only one copy of the allele won't have the disorder. They're just known as carriers. For a child to have a chance of inheriting the disorder, both parents must either have the disorder themselves or be carriers. As the diagram shows, there's a 1 in 4 chance of a child having the disorder if both parents are carriers. The allele for cystic fibrosis isn't dominant because plenty of the family carry the allele but don't have the disorder. There's a 25% chance that the new baby will have cystic fibrosis and a 50% chance that it will be a carrier because both of its parents because both of its parents are carriers but do not have the disorder. The case of the new baby is just the same as in the genetic diagram above. The baby could be unaffected, capital F, a carrier, capital F, lowercase f, or have cystic fibrosis, lowercase f, lowercase f. Let's look at this. So, we have this one and this one. This goes into this one. We have this one and this one. Goes into this one. We have this one and this one, which goes into this one, and this one and this one, which goes into that one. Now, Your chromosomes control whether you're male or female. There are 23 matched pairs of chromosomes in every human body cell. The 23rd pair is labeled XX or XY. They're the two chromosomes that decide whether you turn out to be male or female. Males have an X and Y chromosome, XY. The Y chromosome causes male characteristics. Females have two X chromosomes, XX. The XX combination causes female characteristics. Because of this, there's an equal chance of having a male or female child. This genetic diagram proves it. Even though we're talking about inheriting chromosomes here and not single genes, the genetic diagram still works in the same way. When you plug all the letters into the diagram, it shows that there are two XX results and two XY results. So, there's the same probability of getting a male or female child. Don't forget that this 50-50 ratio is only a probability. If you had 4 kids, they could all be females. All eggs have one X chromosome, but a sperm can either have an X chromosome or a Y chromosome. So, sex determination in humans depends on whether the sperm that fertilizes the egg carries an X or Y. So this means, just to recap this, contrary to historical beliefs um, where men would blame women for not having a male child, it's actually the male sperm that decides the gender of the child. So, yeah, a funny little thing there, isn't it? No, let's go back to variation. Lockock says, I wonder if the book covers epigenetics and genomic expression. Probably not. This is very simple. Hi, Ansito. How are you doing today? Hogothox, this is a very, very sort of, this is like for, how do I, like 14, 15-year-olds, I think? Like, 14 to 16-year-olds, I think. No, that's like GCSE, which is in the English system. Yeah, like but introduction bio. We're not gonna do complicated biology here. We do chill bio here. Now, variation. Genetic variation is caused by genes. Woohoo! Good surprise. All animals, including humans, are bound to be slightly different from each other because their genes are slightly different. You might remember that genes determine how your body turns out. They control your inherited traits. For example, eye color. We all end up with a different set of genes. The exceptions to this rule are identical twins because their genes are exactly the same. Most variation in animals is due to genes and environment. Almost every single aspect of a human or other animal is affected by our own environment in some way, however small. In fact, it's a lot easier to list the factors which aren't affected in any way by the environment. Eye color, hair color, inherited disorders, and blood group. Environment can have a large effect on human growth even before someone's born. For example, a baby's weight at birth can be affected by the mother's diet, and having a poor diet while you're growing up can stunt your growth. Another environmental variation. For some characteristics, it's hard to say which factors are more important, genes or environmental. Now, health. Some people are more likely to get certain diseases, for example, cancer and heart disease, because of their genes. But a lifestyle also affects the risk. For example, if you smoke or only eat junk food. Smoking because pressure buildup, and junk food because of the fatty bits that can sort of block stuff. Intelligence. One theory is that although your maximum possible IQ might be determined by your genes, whether you get it depends on your environment. For example, your upbringing in school life. Sporting ability. Again, genes probably determine your potential, but training is important too. Yes, our God says knows more about my biology than me. Saturated fats and cholesterol. Yes. Also, hi, Lilith. How you doing? I hope you enjoyed this stream today. We're almost at the end. Now, environmental variation in plants is much greater. Plants are strongly affected by number one, sunlight, number two, moisture level, number three, temperature, and number four, the mineral content of the soil. For example, plants may grow twice as big or twice as fast due to the fairly modest changes in the environment, such as the amount of sunlight or rainfall they're getting, or how warm it is, or what the soil is like. I'm doing well, hello. Thank you so much for asking. I'm a bit sleepy, but hey, I'm awake and alive. Anime lover says, my dad says that you look cute with your elf ears. Aw, that's sweet. I've got, yeah, they're cute. I wanted to add a snow leopard ears as well to my character. But the issue was there's no space. There's no space, so I can't. It's like I've already got the horns and I've already got the ears, so I really don't have space for it. Lila says you've got a lovely voice. Oh, thank you so much. You're so sweet. I really appreciate it. Although when I'm reading, I put on the relaxing voice. But otherwise, you'll see me screaming at stuff at games. Now, let's go on to evolution and natural selection. The theory evolution states that one of your probably very distant ancestors was a blob in a swamp somewhere. Well, something like that, anyways. It's probably best you listen on for more details. Now, the theory of evolution. Life began as simple organisms from which more complex organisms evolved, rather than just popping into existence. The whole process of evolution usually takes place gradually over millions of years. It's still going on today. For example, some bacteria are evolving to become resistant to antibiotics. Natural selection means the survival of the fittest. Oh, God says, yeah, my bachelor's is in general science with a biochemistry minor and a public health education minor. So, yeah, health and bio is my bread and butter. Love it. I love it. Cyber says, stretching today, no squatting for me. Thank you so much for the stretch redeem. Let me do that now. My legs are still hurting. I can't believe you guys redeemed 160 squats in total for last stream. I couldn't sleep last night because my legs were hurting. Wait, let me stretch. Stretch up, stretch to the side, and stretch to the other side. Oh, Lila says, if you can be a dub actor in anime or game, would be terrific. Yeah, I've tried to audition for lots of voice acting gigs, but I never got chosen, unfortunately. I did audition for quite a few though. But hey, it is what it is. Nowadays people just use AI. Lidip says, by any chance are you a teacher? No, I am a learner. I am someone with memory issues, so I always come back to the basics. But I'd love to teach one day. The issue is with my autism, I'm not very good around loud noises, so I wouldn't be able to deal with people shouting or screaming or yeah, because when I get overwhelmed, I have a bit of a breakdown, so I wouldn't be able to cope in a school because children can be quite mean, especially teenagers. Yeah, but it is what it is. It is what it is, you know? All right, let's go on to natural selection. Natural selection means survival of the fittest. Charles Darwin came up with the theory of evolution by natural selection. At the time, he didn't know how characteristics were passed on to offspring, but we now know that they're passed on in the genes that parents contribute to their offspring. Scientists have developed Darwin's theory over time, using what we now know about genetics. Darwin knew that organisms in a species show variation in their characteristics. Darwin also knew that the resources that organisms need to survive are limited, and individuals have to compete for these resources to survive. Darwin concluded that the organisms with the with the most suitable characteristics for the better environment would be more successful competitors and so would have a better chance at survival. These successful organisms will then have an increased chance of breeding and passing on their genes. This means that a greater proportion of the individuals in the next generation will have better alleles. Alleles, yes. Yeah. So the characteristics that help survival. Argos says, if you're up for learning more complex biochem, let me know. Happy to teach a tutor. Oh, that's really sweet. Maybe if I ever decide to end up I'm doing like a special online course at the moment because I wouldn't be able to go to a real place for like age reasons and that sort of thing. Um, but yeah, I'm hoping to try and do A levels maybe in the future. We'll see though. I'm only really interested in doing like bio and chem. I've done a lot of chem streams. Back says children don't hold back. Yep, that is something we can agree on. I'm just I really struggle with teenage boys because they shout and they just say really horrible things, especially if I'm trying to play like a game. I'm not very good at games, so people often get a bit rude, especially on like Valorant and such. So I've had teenage boys yell at me a lot, but there's a mute button, which makes me very grateful. Lilith says, but really, your voice is terrific, smooth and serene. Yeah, I changed my voice for streaming because I can do like voice acting. I can speak really deep like this. I can move my voice all the way down here. Or I can move my voice all the way up here and sound like really high pitched. But hey, I just like not normally on day to day you'll hear me speaking a bit deeper and more roughly. But for when I'm reading, I keep my voice soft and add little ups and downs to make it sound nice. Sound nice. Yeah, I play lots of games. I got games on my phone, you could say. Recently, I've been playing what have I been playing? Um, I've been playing League, I've been playing Val. I like multiplayer games and got some Black Powder. That's about it for what I play. Well, thank you so much, Hogwarts. If I ever decide to go past them, then well, if I ever start to, I'm probably just gonna have to start working after I get these qualifications, though. But who knows? I might be in my own time. I might do like an online. Yeah, I'm probably gonna do like an online thing for that. Liv says, "Oh, by the way, you sing too." I can try. I can always try, but with no guarantee. Anyways, I'm gonna finish this page, and then I do have stuff to do this evening. There are guests arriving in like half an hour or so I need to prepare and I need to socialize. So unfortunately, there'll be no guts and black powder today. All right, let's finish up this page, and then I will be zooming off. All right. Over many generations, the characteristics that increase survival become more common in the population, making the species become better able to survive. The best features are naturally selected, and the species become more and more adapted to its environment. Here's an example. We'll go on to the examples in a second. Run to Darknesses. How did the person's banana loaf turn out? Oh my god, thank you so much for reminding me. Hold on. Let me message Bun right now. Let me shout out Bun real quick. I can only shout out her on Twitch though. Let me try and open Twitch. Oh wait, I shouldn't share this. There we go. I can't share my if I share imagine I accidentally share my personal details. uh, I need to find her. Hold on. Sorry, bear with me 1 second. I want to shout at her, but I need to find the exact spelling of her username. I don't want to accidentally shout out the wrong person. I'm hunting. Yo, why is it not letting me? Hold on. Okay. Great, it is not letting me find it. Shit. Um, hold on. I'm gonna have to find it through Discord. I hope my PC can deal with opening Discord. I know it's Banuki, but I don't know if capitalization changes things. Because previously she was Banui. Previously it was Banui, so I don't. I'm the capitalization. Hold on, I'm opening Discord, and then I'll be able to shout out Ben. I'm trying to shout out Ben. Like I need to find her exact username, so I'm opening Discord to try and find her profile. Bro, I feel so guilty I didn't shout at her yesterday because I was like not thinking. I should have given her a shout. I'm gonna do that now. After I can, it takes my PC a while to boot up things. Moi says just tell me. Yes, yes, yeah, I will. Oh my gosh, Moz did it already. Okay, perfect. Oh, I did spell it wrong. I had two Ks instead. Okay, okay, okay. This is who we were playing with yesterday. She is the sweetest ever. She does mahjong strings. She does mahjong streams, and she is so. She is a medical student, and she is Australian. So that is that's the cutie patootie we were playing with yesterday. I definitely, if you like mahjong, and if you like random visual novels, if you like doing study streams, Bun often streams a lot as well. Like Pippa says, I am drowning in I can't make lovely so. Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm so excited for becoming a VTuber. Then you'll only see the silly PNG when I'm when I'm doing collabs, and then I'll have it. You'll see me as a Fuji tech on other people's streams. Or maybe one day if I can't get my VTuber model working, then I'll be like this. All right, let's start. Let's finish this page. All right. Once upon a time, maybe all rabbits had short ears and managed okay. Then one day, a rabbit popped out with big ears who could hear better and was always the first to dive for cover at the sound of a predator. Pretty soon, he's fathered a whole family of rabbits with big ears, all diving for cover before other rabbits. And before you know it, there are only big-eared rabbits left, because the rest just didn't hear trouble coming quick enough. This is how populations adapt to survive better in their environment. An organism doesn't actually change when it's alive. Changes only occur from generation to generation. Lilith says, what's the level you put yourself at singing? Um, good question. Let's try and sing something now. Um, uh, let's go into your. Okay, this led by Maroon 5. Also, audio for this is on the Purple app, so if you're on YouTube, if you're on the Red app, you won't be able to hear the music, and I'll sound crazy. We're gonna be singing "This Love" by Maroon 5. Let's go. Bam, 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 bam. Put the volume up. Wait 1 second. My audio is mixing up. I need to remove my Monster Audio from OBS. Settings. Monitor only, mute output. There we go. Here we go. Oh, this is annoying. It doesn't let me. I have to remove my monitor off. I have to make monitor off for this. Shame. Okay. I was so high I did not recognize the fire burning in her eyes, the chaos that controlled my mind. Whispered goodbye as she got on the plane, never to return again, but always in my heart. This love has taken its toll on me. She said goodbye too many times before, and her heart is breaking in front of me, and I have no choice, 'cause I won't say goodbye anymore. Whoa, whoa, whoa. I tried my best to feed her appetite, keep her coming every night, so hard to keep her satisfied. Kept playing love like it was just a game, pretending to feel the same, then turn around and leave again. But oh, this love has taken its toll on me. She said goodbye too many times before, and her heart is breaking in front of me, and I have no choice, 'cause I won't say goodbye anymore. And that is where I'm gonna leave it. Back to our jazz reading. That is what was that? Was that okay? Hopefully. Anyways, back back to reading. Alright. Clap, clap, clap. Was that okay, Moaz? Do I have your approval? Lilith says, I'm so sorry, I gotta go. You have fun now. See you soon, I promise. Bye bye. I really love your voice and that singing voice and angel kiss voice. Oh, you're so sweet. You're so sweet. I look forward to seeing you again. I hope you enjoyed the reading. Okay, it's time for the best genes for a particular environment tend to survive. The individuals who are less suited to an environment are less likely to survive than those that are better suited. So, have less chance to pass their alleles on gradually over time. This results in a population which is extremely well suited to the environment in which it lives. Bye bye, Lilith. I've been approved by Beck. I appreciated the approval. Much appreciated. Anyways, remember, variations are caused by the environment itself. For example, losing a finger. What are the variations that are caused by the environment itself? Example, losing a finger, aren't involved in natural selection. Natural selection. Variations in a species. Oh, I'm blanking. Variations in a species can have either environmental or genetic causes, but only the genetic ones are passed on to the next generation and influence the evolution of the species. Okay, and I think this is where we'll be ending for today because, oh my gosh, I really don't have time. But I will be ending stream on all sites aside from the Purple app. So on the Purple app, I'm lagging. On the Purple app, we will be raiding out. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in today. I will be playing a game tomorrow at the same time, and I hope you all have a lovely one. Goodbye.